Okay, we said 2024 is going to be done is better, and it will be better. And we're taking that to the next level. So tonight, who's struggling to find that deal? Exactly. And who's only using the strategies of all cash or low ball? Low cash being a low ball, right. And would you like to know how to buy with low or no interest and get rid of the banks? Of course. So let's welcome Investing with No Limits Roadmap to regain your lost time and your financial freedom, back again by popular demand, Maria Giordano.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I apologize for my voice. I'm like getting over a cold or something. So how are you guys doing tonight? You braved the weather? I can outdo you on the weather today. I went through 2 blizzards, sleet, torrential rain, and a flood. And I got stuck on a mountain pass in Pennsylvania. I live supposed to be less than 5 hours away. It took me over 8. I'm glad I drive my F-250. So anyhow, I'm glad you guys could come out and brave the weather tonight. Excited to be here. So, whoops, is my thing not going? There we go. Tonight is what I like to call investing with no limits, the trifecta of real estate investing. And as I said, I came, whoops, here we go, from Pennsylvania. And I invest all over the country. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I'm a Midwesterner. Got my started in Wisconsin, been in Arizona, have students all over the country, all over the world. I guess there might be someone from Australia. I actually have a student in Perth, Australia. But let me start out with, oops, I'm getting too far from my computer, a couple of headlines that, these are just some of the ones that I like to start out with. I just pulled these up this past week. And if you notice, each one of these headlines, even though the housing market is doing pretty well right now, each one of these headlines is designed to basically scare us, right? To keep us in fear. And when we become trapped in fear, it prevents us from moving forward. A headline that I saw yesterday that I didn't get a chance to put up here was, of the top 10 emerging real estate markets that are doing really well, Ohio has 3, right? And I apologize for not putting that one up. I believe that came from Redfin. And reason being is you guys have affordable homes. You have jobs. What's happening in a lot of the other states? Not so affordable. High insurance rates. We're starting to see some foreclosures. I'm actually buying at auction in Pennsylvania again. So tonight, I want to start out by kind of going through an overview of what most real estate investors' problems are as I've seen them. First of all, how many of you are having a hard time locating properties? Okay, I've got maybe 5 of you. All of you guys, the rest of you have what? Tons of properties, leads coming in all over? No, otherwise you probably wouldn't be here. You'd be out doing more deals. Or maybe you're here to sell your deals, I don't know. So the second thing is, how do you lock those properties in? How do you negotiate with the sellers? That tends to be the second problem many investors have. And then the third one, of course, is leveraging, money. How do you create that deal? And how do you get that money for that property? So that's what I want to demystify today. And then how many of you guys know we're going to also do a Saturday all day? Anybody, a couple of you? Okay, so tonight I have like maybe 90 minutes or so. Saturday we got an all day from about 9 to 5. So we're going to go much deeper on Saturday. And then Saturday I'm just going to tell you this now, I'm giving you a 23-page workbook or your blueprint for your real estate investing. So it's your blueprint that you work on and that you take home so you can implement, okay? So I just want to get that out there and let you guys know about that. But today you want to find more deals in today's market, how to negotiate with sellers and become their only logical choice. And then the third thing, of course, is have a creative strategy for every deal out there. If you stick around to the end, I'll talk to you more about Saturday and about the system and how I do it. This is kind of a brief history of the interest rates going back to about 1971 to just before the interest rates started climbing in 2022. This is also what I like to call my lifeline according to the interest rates. See, I remember back in 1981 when interest rates jumped from, what then seemed like a normal 7.6% to over 18% overnight. 18.6% to be exact. At the same time, my father, who was a master electrician, got laid off. As a result of that, we had no food coming in. We had no money coming in. My parents had to file for bankruptcy. I had to go to the food pantry with my parents at the local church so that we could get an extra bag of groceries. But the thing I didn't realize at the time was what a smart man my father was. You see, back then, my father was into real estate. And he built his rental portfolio. He built townhouses from the ground up, not where we lived in the city of Milwaukee, but out in the suburbs. Whoops, my thing was going crazy. Oh well. Out in the suburbs. And when we were losing our house in the city of Milwaukee, we got to move into one of our rental properties. Now, back then, I thought it was a real drag, because I went from being this city kid to moving out to the suburbs with, cows and fishermen. But a tenant on one side basically paid my parents' mortgage on the property so we could get back on our feet. Henceforth, actually, let me go back, see if it'll go. A little bit of a lapse here, sorry about that. So when we moved out to suburbs, my father also wanted me to go into the trades. Problem is this is winter on Lake Michigan, much like Lake Erie, right? Pretty darn cold, that's the lighthouse. So I decided I didn't want to go into the trades with my father. That's when I decided I was going to go into the factory. Not exactly very smart there. Right around the holidays, they start giving you your pink slips. So I got my pink slip. Thought, you know what, instead I'm going to become a nurse. I think I know there's one nurse over here. Any more nurses, healthcare workers, doctors, anybody in here? Yeah, okay. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have an American dream. I'm going to work really hard, and I'm going to become a registered nurse. Well, problem is I started trading time for money. And I wanted to have the house, have the American dream with a couple of kids, have another couple of kids come in. I had a little divorce in there, but it didn't take me long to realize that working day-night shift rotation and trading time for money was just another headache. So again, I had a great idea, and I thought I'd go to work for corporate America. And I started building healthcare companies from the ground up, assisted living facilities, home care companies, all that kind of stuff. Well, I made these companies from nothing to multi-millions of dollars in a year. One day, I had a disagreement with the guy at the home care company, the owners, the board. Got my next pink slip. They said I didn't agree with how the patients were being treated and their outcomes. And they told me, hey, Maria, have you ever heard the term, money walks and you know what, or money talks and you know what walks? And I said, I didn't agree with that. Guess who got to walk? So that was my first taste into, you know, my dad was onto something with this real estate thing, because now I'm out of a job again, and I didn't have any money, and I wanted to get into houses, but how do I do it? So it was at that time that I started getting into real estate. And in less than 45 days of getting my first property, I made almost my entire annual salary as a registered nurse. Yeah. How many of you would like to do that? Make almost your entire annual salary? Absolutely. 6 months later, I retired myself from nursing. I stopped being, and you should all write this down, your W-2 job is someone else's retirement plan. I stopped being someone else's retirement plan. And I got to get my life back. Now I've been on things like ABC Nightline, Wall Street Journal, Good Morning America, Investor Business Daily, Realty Track, all that kind of stuff. Was offered my own reality television show, which I turned around. I have 5 kids. I have enough drama in my own house. I don't need the television bringing it in. But each one of these houses represented freedom. My oldest daughter is legally blind. She's now an attorney today. At the time, she needed specialized education. The public schools wanted to make her a pass-fail child. They wanted to set her up to live in a group home. No child of mine was going to grow up to live in a group home. Each one of these houses helped provide for her specialized education. It provided for me to be a mom. So when I got into real estate, there's only one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to get up every morning, get my children up, feed them, take them to school or put them on the bus, and be there when they got home. I didn't want them to be a latchkey kid like I did. I also wanted to be able to go to their games. I didn't want to have to tell them again when I was a nurse that, hey, you have to wait till mommy comes home from work at 8 o'clock at night to open up your Christmas presents. And that's what real estate got for me. It's not about the money, it's about the freedom and what it can do for you. So write down your vision of what you want, not your goal, but your vision. What is it you want real estate to do? Because money is just money, you just put it on the table. No use. But what is it you want from it? So today I want to talk to you about a system. A system is a reliable, consistent, predictable result. You get it working once, and it keeps working over and over again. Why do you think people buy franchises? They're buying a system that they get working once, and it's been proven, and it goes over and over and over again. Hospital, healthcare, there's a reason why we call it a system. The military, it's just systems. So how come in real estate, nobody's teaching you how to put your systems together? That's what you should be learning, is how do you put the systems together to make the money to give you what you want at the end of the day. So there's 3 keys to your success. Step 1 is your marketing. Write that down. You've got to be able to market for motivated sellers. Step 2 is your negotiations. You have to be able to negotiate like a little Jedi Master. I mean, who doesn't love Baby Yoda? Oh yeah, see, you're all happy about that. So the thing is tonight I'm going to start giving you a framework for your negotiations, for your script. We're going to drill it down on Saturday into 6 individual different components to that framework, to that negotiation matrix. But I believe in scripts. I believe in starting with a script, and just like any Oscar or Emmy winner or whatever, they start with a script, and then they improve upon it and they make it their own. But if you don't know where to start, how are you going to know what to improve upon? So I want to start giving you that tonight as well. And then the third thing is creating deals, having a creative deal strategy, not just the all-cash, low-ball, one-trick pony offer. Having multiple different ways to help a seller out, because it's usually not all about the money, not all about having the cash. And funny enough, when I was here 5 years ago, this was where I negotiated on the property that I live now in Pennsylvania when I was living in Arizona, that I did a creative deal, a short sale, a sub-2 on the first, and now I have over $500,000 in equity, and I bought it with none of my own money. And we'll go more into that on Saturday as well. But let's start with your marketing. So the first thing you need to be doing is building your market money tree. And in order to do that, you have to start by picking 3. 3 strategies or 3 ways that are going to work for you to find motivated sellers. When you come on Saturday, I have about 50 different ways I'm going to give you. Why do I give you so many? Because the 3 that works for you may not work for him. The 3 that work for me, you may not want, nobody else may want to. My husband loves to door knock. I am not door knocking. Now, did I send him to door knock on the house in Pennsylvania? Sure I did. Got me the house. Did I ever say I had to be the one to do it to get what I want? No, there are people out there who like to door knock. But you've got to pick your 3 strategies. The reason why is if you only have one strategy, and I've run into a lot of wholesalers this year that their only strategy was pulling a list and text blasting. What has been virtually wiped out this past year with legislation? Texting. So now they're coming to me and going, Maria, how can I find these deals? Because they only had one strategy. So, okay, if one's not enough, why not 10? Well, you're going to run around like a squirrel trying to find that nut and being all over the place and never going to know what works and what isn't working. 3 tends to be manageable. The three that I'm pretty much using most of the time right now is direct mail. Direct mail is not dead. Networking, I'm networking all the time. I'm constantly getting deals. How many of you know Pete Fortunato? A few of you, right? What does Pete Fortunato primarily do? Network, talks, flap his jaws. People bring him deals, tons of deals. Pete Fortunato is one of my very first mentors. And then I work with wholesalers. Am I buying all cash properties from wholesalers? No. How many wholesalers right now are struggling because they have all these leads that are dead because the numbers don't work for a wholesale deal? Do I have any wholesalers in here? Are you guys having a little harder time getting those? Sorta. I'm working with wholesalers to get their scraps, get the nuggets, the ones I can do the creative seller strategies with that they don't know. In fact, I have more deals coming from my wholesalers right now than almost anything else because they're bringing it to me, and that goes back to networking again. The other one is your realtors. I'm doing a lot with realtors as well. Do realtors have problem properties? Sure. If those properties aren't selling, is it becoming an issue? Can you negotiate with realtors? Believe it or not, yeah. See, Anna's like, yeah, you can. I'm not a realtor. I'm a real estate investor. I never had an opportunity, really, because I kept going so much to become a realtor. But over 50% of my students are real estate agents. They have problems, and they want to know how to help their client and get paid. And that's where these creative strategies come in. So when it comes to your direct mail, what you are not going to do is pull a list of absentee out-of-state owners. When I lived in Arizona, we called that a snowbird. You're supposed to laugh. Nowadays, you might call it a Airbnb, a short-term rental, whatever. But an out-of-state absentee owner does not mean a desperate, motivated seller. What I found very early on, my avatar starts, and your avatar is what is the persona or what does that ideal motivated seller look like? And so I start creating that list, and then I stack it with other problems to get the target I'm looking for. So my seller avatar are tired landlords who've owned the property generally for more than 10 years. Do landlords start to get, a little tired after about the 7th year? Some of them after the first year. I want it to be vacant. And then I pull an eviction list from the courthouse. Is that a motivated, tired landlord now? Yeah. So I go after the most motivated. I'm not going after 1,000, 10,000 names. That's a waste of money. I'm going after a very succinct, small number, a couple hundred of names that are motivated. And from there, and when I hit them up, I can get as high as a 27% response rate. And on Saturday, and I know I keep talking about Saturday, but you will be getting my letter that I send to them as well. But you have to start asking yourself, what is the seller's motivation? What is their pain? What is the real estate problem that they have that you might be able to solve? Stop doing the net. Get laser focused. And then you've got to be consistent. Repetition and frequency is where the money is at. Marketing is never a one and done game. You should always be marketing, always be doing something. You should be tracking it. But your greatest response is going to come, over 80% of your responses are going to come after the 5th, 6th, 7th mailing. I mail the same list all year long, and sometimes I just keep right on mailing it. If the property sold, I take it off. If they tell me to take it off, I follow up. But you've got to have repetition and frequency. And just by doing this little trick with your direct mail, it can make all the difference in your marketing. The thing about direct mail and why I like it so much too is how many emails do you guys get? 150, 200 a day maybe? It's about me. How many pieces of mail do you get? A few, a handful. And then when you take a number 10 envelope, and I use a colored envelope, I like Tiffany blue, what girl doesn't like Tiffany? So I brand it. So I take a number 10 envelope, blue. I hand address it. Do I hand address it? No, I go on Craigslist and I find somebody who will do piecework for me. For like 40 cents an envelope. Just stuff it, write my name on it, address it, put a colorful stamp on it, and send it off. It gets it opened. Your number one job about your direct mail is to get the person to stop, take a look at it, and open it. If it looks like everybody else's piece of junk mail, are they going to open it? Or are they just going, psst? So you got to start by making it look different. My letter on the inside that you'll get is also branded. Everything I do is branded. So this is one of my students, Michelle Russell. She helped run Rich Dad seminars and worked for Tony Robbins and all that stuff. She was really big in fixing and flipping for a while, and then got into Airbnbs. What's happening with Airbnbs around the country? Legislation, they're just oversaturated, lots of problems with it. Now, she's still doing okay, but she was getting a little tired and watching the property she bought. She bought them correctly, but got tired of seeing the profits going like this and watching the towns change and her having to go from an Airbnb to a midterm rental or, always looking for that window. So she wanted to get back into what she used to do, being a housing provider. And she started out doing the old way of just throwing out a list, pulling a list out there. Well, it wasn't working. So I told her, you need a list stack. Well, she wanted to go after multifamilies. Can this work for multifamily? Absolutely. I use it for my multifamily. Can you buy multifamily creatively? Absolutely. So she pulls the list, but she calls me up when I call one of my Lifeline calls, and she's like, this isn't working. I'm like, what happened? She's like, when I went on ListSource and I pulled the list, I forgot to filter out all of the single families and just go after multifamilies. So when you're pulling a list, there's a place called ListSource, listsource.com. You can also do it on PropStream, FreedomSoft, all different types of websites are out there. If you want to pay only by the name or what you use, go to ListSource. They're the largest data mining company probably in the world other than maybe the Chinese. They know more about you than you know about you. They're owned by CoreLogic. So I said, wait a minute, hold up. What type of leads did you get? She's like, well, these people have called me back and they want to sell their houses. I don't want houses. I'm like, could you wholesale these deals to other investors? Absolutely. So she turned around and wholesaled in 1 month 3 properties, total $36,000 for an oopsie, I made a mistake because I didn't filter out multifamily. Now is she going after her multifamily? Yeah. But is that a pretty nice Christmas payday last year? I think so. I'll take $36,000 on a trip to Hawaii. Now we talked about networking. Go where you like to go. My other student here, Ernie. Ernie's a rocket scientist. He likes cars. Big shocker there, right? In Arizona, they have a thing called Barrett-Jackson Car Show. How many of you guys are familiar? A few of you, right? Really nice place. Who flies in on their jets there? Rich people. Yeah, right, you do. Got one in the back. Excuse me. So I told Ernie, I'm like, why not volunteer? So he got to volunteer at Barrett-Jackson, got to drive some really cool cars, talk to a bunch of millionaires about the cars, and then tell them about what he likes to do, and he walks away after 2 weeks with an investor. Pretty good networking. So think about where is it, other than just in your RIA or at other real estate groups, that there are people with money, that there are people that might want to invest in real estate. So start writing those lists down. Now the second thing, as I said, is your negotiations. You need to be able to negotiate like a Jedi Master. Negotiations is your highest dollar per hour. It's going to make you and save you more money than anything else out there. And this is from somebody who used to hate to negotiate. The problem is, most of you haven't done the first part right, which is your marketing. And if you haven't built that funnel and haven't been consistent and you don't have those leads coming in, what happens when you do get one? You're needy. Because you're like, I got to get this deal. And what happens when you're needy? It causes fear and desperation. Who wants to be around someone who's desperate? Do you think the seller or the other people around you on the other side sense that? Like, why do you want to buy my house so bad? What's wrong with this? So you have to they all fit together like a pyramid or a triangle. You have to start with your marketing and get that up and going and be consistent so you get those calls coming in. And then the more calls you get coming in, the less needy you start being, and you start sifting through them, filtering through those, getting the practice in. The other thing that causes the fear and the neediness is when that seller calls you, do they usually have a price in mind? Is that price usually really reasonable and low down here? No. Or is it way up here? Whoops. It's up really high, right? And on top of that, when they tell you that, or you know they want way over than what it's worth, they've just anchored you to their price. So that also causes fear because you're way down here. Instead, you have to start using negotiations and saying, oh, wow, you want $180,000? And then go silent. Silence is one of your number one negotiations tools. You start to create doubt. It starts to create a feeling of being uncomfortable. Other people, just as much as you, do not like silence. They usually start to talk and fill in that silence. Yeah, talk, 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 talk. And that's when you shut up and listen, because they give you all the information. And they just keep talking and talking. And then you can start asking them questions. How did you come by that number? Can you show me why your property is worth $180 when the one down the street just sold for $130 and it has a new kitchen? You can start talking to them about it. But you have to be a fearless negotiator. You make more money through your negotiations and by being fearless in it. My husband, Gary, who I think is listening online, used to say that or still does say, that if I am not uncomfortable with my offer to the seller, I know right away I offered too much. You've got to get used to being uncomfortable because that's where the money is, honey. So, several years ago, I trained with the #1 FBI hostage negotiator in the world, Chris Voss. I was in his mastermind, paid tens of thousands of dollars. Do you think I was nervous? I was one of the only females in there. I was in with professional sports team owners, people who, oh, yeah, they're landlords, to millions of doors, high rises, all of this kind of stuff. But if I didn't break that barrier and go outside my comfort, I never would have learned what it was I needed to know to break that down. So that was me with Chris Voss at his mastermind a few years ago. But my very first negotiator, this man right here. Anybody here of Jimmy Napier? A few of you guys do. Right next to him, I mentioned Pete. It's Pete, John Shaw, Degs Bonifer. In the middle there, that's my little 9-year-old. You might need a real estate support group if you plan your C-section around going to the Legends of Real Estate conference. He was 2 weeks old. I cherish that picture because some of those guys like Jimmy and stuff aren't around today. But one of the things that Jimmy taught me was you got to let it simmer. We're in such a fast-paced world. It's like, man, I got 15 minutes to talk to the seller, on to the next. And that was me. And man, I used to roll my eyes. Do I have any service members in here? I got 2 of you. Well, my husband, and thank you for your service. My husband is the service. He was a C-130 navigator. My son was a Marine. And when we would go out and we'd go to some of these old guys' houses and stuff like that, and my husband would start talking about being in the service. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, yeah, this is great. The guy said he's not in the service. Dude, I get you, wish he was. Time is money. What's going on here? What was my husband doing? Making a friend. Building rapport. Is that important in what we do? Absolutely. If you find yourself going out on tons of appointments or seeing 20 or 30 people and never getting a deal, maybe it's you. You got to make a friend. You got to sit there. We're talking to people who are going through, some of them, the worst situations of their entire life. That house I bought in central Pennsylvania, that woman was going through an 8-year divorce, lost 3 businesses, was losing the house she built with her children. If I was like this, do you think she would have ever sold me that house? No. It was already going to be lost. She didn't have to. But I sat there and I listened to her. I helped her. And when you do that, these sellers, they send you flowers. They thank you. She sent me a beautiful bouquet of irises and lilies and told me how I restored her faith in humanity. We're building back people's lives. We're helping them move forward. I had a student who said, I could never market to probate. I said, why not? She's like, oh my God, I'd be an ambulance chaser. I said, you really think that little of yourself? Do you know what it's like to lose someone? Do you know what it's like to have to clear through their estate and not be able to grieve because you have this property and it needs to be cleaned up? It hasn't been maintained. Oh yeah, and there's always that one responsible person that has to pay the taxes on it, keep the electricity on, all this other stuff. Is that property a burden then? Many times, yeah. But they still want to talk. So you've got to let it simmer. Your negotiations will save you and make you more money than anything else, whether it's in your real estate business or your everyday life. Now, who are my new investors? Haven't done a deal or maybe only done 1 or 2. I have a few of you in here. All right, so the rest of you, I'm going to take more experience maybe, been around a while. So let's talk about terminology. I want to bring everybody along together. In real estate, just like any other industry, we use lots of acronyms. So there's a few things you have to know when you're going to start making offers. First of all, you have to start with your after repair value, your ARV. That's the full market value after the property is all fixed up and drop dead gorgeous. What is it going to sell for when you go like the skunk on the left to the beautiful property on the right? How much is that one on the right going to sell for? That is your after repair value. You have to know that when going in. Your comps or your comparables. Who are my realtors? Honest, I'm not going to pick on you. I only have Anna's like, okay, a couple of you. Like, yeah, I'm a realtor. Stand up, be proud. I work with realtors all the time, and I make them money. You don't need to be a realtor to get good comps. I've had MLS Access, and you know what I still prefer to use? Zillow. Exactly. Why am I using Zillow? It has pictures, what? History. What else? The other party sees it. Whether that person's 90 years old or 40, 30, whatever, if they're not going on Zillow to check it, you better bet their daughter, their granddaughters, their family, their friend member, they're all going on Zillow first, aren't they? When a property down the street goes up for sale, where are they looking? On Zillow. So why should I use anything else? I never said Zillow was accurate, did I? No. Many times it's actually in our favor as investors. But do I want to know what the seller is looking at? Absolutely. Use their numbers, find out, get into their head. So I'm looking at properties, and you can use Redfin, Realty Track. Like I say, you can go door knock and find out what properties are going for in the neighborhood, what they're renting for. I like to use same subdivision, same neighborhood, not across a busy highway to the next neighborhood. Within typically about 90 days, sometimes maybe 60 days, depending on the neighborhoods. Plus or minus 10% of square footage. Now I know you appraisers like to go 20%. I like to keep my numbers really tight, which just means if I have a 1,000 square foot house, I'm not going to comp it with a 2,000 square foot house. I might comp it with a 1,200 square foot house. Excuse me. 3-bedroom, 2-bath against another 3-bedroom, 2-bath, not against a 1-1. All right, so you've got to know how to comp your properties. It's very important. A nice property against another nice, and a distressed property against another distressed. Looking at other nice properties will give me a good idea of what that after repair value might be for that property in that neighborhood. Looking at other distressed properties that have sold, by the way, not pending, not for sales, because as we all know, those can be pie in the sky numbers, but sold properties can give me an idea what they're going for. The next one is your estimate of repairs. There's always going to be 2 estimates of your repairs. There's one that's going to be, if it's rental, what is it going to take to make it livable? Clean the carpets, maybe a fresh coat of paint, fix any doors that are off, that kind of stuff. And then the second one is if you were going to flip it. What is it going to take to do a full rehab on that property? Generally speaking, your materials plus your labor runs about $5,000 per week. Now, that's going to go up, obviously, with the type of property you're doing. Obviously, $1 million property is going to be much higher than that per week. Why? Different finishes. I am not putting Carrara marble in my rental, despite what HGTV says. All right? So, a $60,000 rehab takes about 12 weeks. Now, it can change a little bit too if you've got to put a new roof on, if there's foundation issues, but this is a good rule of thumb. So, the next thing, the fourth thing, is going to be your maximum allowable offer, or your MAO. This is kind of like the grassroots way of figuring out what is the maximum offer for a low cash offer you can make on a property. You have that ARV number. Remember I told you the after repair value, what it's going to sell for when it's drop dead gorgeous. And then I multiply it by the discount. D stands for the discount you want. Now, I don't do less than a 70% discount. I have recently done a property at a 50% discount. I don't go over 70% because things can go wrong. Then I subtract the repairs on that. So when you're looking at the property, if it's a $200,000 after repair value, now write this down, you got $200,000 with repairs of $60,000. You want a 70% discount. So $200,000 multiplied by 70% is $140. I go through numbers slow because I know numbers can be hard for people. Now I'm going to subtract my repairs, which I said was about $60,000. So what is the maximum I can offer on this house? $80,000. Where do I need to start my offer? 60. You're right on with that. Now, where are my wholesalers again? When people want to wholesale? So now on top of that, or subtracted from that 80,000, I need to do what if you're going to wholesale it? Your wholesale fee, absolutely correct. So say I want a minimum of a $10,000 wholesale fee. The bigger property, the bigger the number usually. So now I can't go over 70,000 if I'm going to wholesale that. So now I'm probably going to start in the 50s range. But a lot of you guys get really nervous. Remember when I talked about that anchoring? Who gets nervous to give a seller a low cash offer? No one, well, okay, your experience. You're like, whatever, it's a game, it's the numbers. How many of you seriously get a little nervous when you know that seller wants 180,000 and you can't offer more than 70? Does that make anybody nervous? Nope. Okay, a couple of you at least nodding your head. Well, that used to scare the pants off of me. I thought I was going to be, thrown out. How many of you think that seller's going to get mad and throw you out? So I used to start anchoring my seller to just how low my offer was going to be. I started telling him, listen, man, I would love to give you what you want. I just can't. In fact, I don't even want to tell you what I'll offer you. What happens when you tell somebody you're not going to tell them something? They want to know, don't they? Are they going to be like, oh, that's okay, Maria, catch you later? No. So then I tell them, Mr. Seller, all right, Jane, you got to promise me you're not going to get mad. You got to promise me you're not going to throw me out because I can't give you what you want. And then I would write it down. Or if you're super nervous, maybe you give a range, like 50 to 60,000. What number does the seller see when you give a range of 50 to 60,000? 60. What range or what number do you see when you give them that number? 50. So are we going to make sure our range is well below our maximum allowable offer? Absolutely. So usually the top of my range is right about where I need to be. And then, oops, it's not working again. I always bring a yellow pad. I write all my offers down on a yellow pad. Now, during COVID, I created for my students a 3 offer sheet so that they could walk the sellers through it because we were doing a lot of stuff virtually. It can be a little tricky. But I keep it simple. I follow the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. If the seller is confused, a confused mind says, they're not going to do anything. If you give somebody too many choices, they're not going to do anything. So you got to keep it simple. Take a yellow pad. So when you're starting to do your terms deal or any offer with the seller, there's 2 things that you need the seller to agree to: price or terms. If the seller wants their terms, which is generally cash, right, I need to get my price, don't I? Which is low. It's that one-trick pony offer. However, if the seller wants their price, which many times, they're caught up on their number in their head, their price. So listen, I can give you $180,000 for that property, but in order for me to do that, I need more time. So now I start to need the terms. But here's the thing, when you're doing your terms and deals, it's got a cash flow. And you can do terms deals to flip properties as well. I've done that many times. Because sometimes it's easier to give the seller a little bit of money every month and pay a little bit more when you don't have to use hard money, isn't it? Or if you get to come in with nothing down. But again, numbers never lie. Write that down. Your numbers never lie. The second you start manipulating your numbers, time out, you're in trouble. So this is one of my properties. Call it Gloria's Family Home. And I go in with a yellow sheet for my negotiations. I've always done this. I've always divided up into, actually went back to when I used to, be in elementary school and they'd teach me I had learning disabilities and, you have to read a story and you have to put the problems and all this stuff on one side and the other side and do it. Same thing. Left side I put present situation. Right side I put their future situation. Excuse me. And then I just start asking them questions and writing everything down. In this case, I found out that Gloria's rental property was actually her mom, Connie's, that they've owned it as a rental for over 20 years, that they used to have a Section 8 tenant in it that paid $825 per month. How did I find this out? She told me. Why did she tell me? I asked her. Be like that 2-year-old that's always going, why? You want to find out more. And then ask the question and let them talk. If you leave a seller's door with them knowing more about you than you know about them, did you do it wrong? Yeah. God gave you 2 years for a reason. Listen. So I found out that Gloria's been managing her mom's property. And just like Pete used to say, why you want to sell a nice home like this? Well, I found out that Gloria's mom has cancer, stage 4 lung cancer. I found out that Gloria wants to move to North Carolina. So I said, well, why not just get somebody else to property manage it? Have you ever asked a housing provider to get somebody else to property manage after they've been doing it? They have horror stories. Usually they go off. They don't like it. So Gloria's like, that's not an option. I also know that when someone has stage 4 lung cancer, their daughter isn't planning on leaving in the next year or two unless what? They don't think they're going to make it, yeah. So I asked her, what does your mom need the money for? What do you want the money for? I want my mom to have the money to live off of for however long she has left. Is that important to Gloria? Is that important to Connie? Does Connie want to be a burden to her children? Absolutely not. So all I'm doing is having a conversation. Then I ask, if you were to keep this property, what would you do to it? Well, she thought that the electrical panel needed to be replaced because it had a little rust on the outside. It was fine. It was a 200 amp panel. It was in the basement. No problems there. And then it shared a sewer line. Not a big deal. So now on the other side, notice I use different colored ink. Am I doing this in front of her? Yeah. Do I want her following along? Do I want things to stand out? Am I communicating and negotiating with her? Yeah. Right from there, I'm trying to understand her situation. Well, I know that if they sell this property for all cash, what's going to happen? Capital gains, taxes, depreciation recapture, all those nasty IRS things. As real estate investors, you should know that the best way to pay, or one of the best ways, other than maybe 1031 and some other strategies, and they don't want to do a 1031, for a seller to legally pay less in taxes and through what we call an installment sale. As an installment sale, you only pay on the gain for that year of payments. When you sell it all cash, you're getting all your gain in what? 1 year. It's a hell of a lot of taxes to pay. And for some of you higher net worth people, that's even more taxes to pay. So now I start putting no more tenants. Daughter no longer has to manage the property. Daughter's free to move to North Carolina. Mom can have money to live off of. No repairs. Take care of the electrical upgrade. No sewer headaches. I asked her, well, okay, if you had a tenant in there for $825, are they still there? No, that's why they want to sell it. They've already fixed it up, painted it, and everything else. I said, well, what do you think it would sell for right now? They said $950. I happen to know I can rent it all day long for $1,300 per month. Why do I know that? I stay in my area. I own the house across the street. I own the other one 2 doors down, and I want to own this whole cul-de-sac if I can. I love the area. Stay where you love to be doing business. Now, I'm not telling her that the market rent's $1,300. What she believes is real is real. So I'm using their numbers in my negotiations. Now, she's asking $170,000. Repairs to flip it is $40,000. Repairs to rent it, it's rent ready. The after repair value on it is $180,000. Does that number work with her $170 sale price and $40 in repairs? Here's someone got a problem. So now I start to make my cash offers, my 3 offers. You guys want to see how to make the 3 offers? Yeah. All right, so again, yellow sheet of paper. Offer number 1 is always your one-trick pony, the low cash offer. But what did I do? I set it up. I let them know in advance that they're going to hate it. Do I want to make that person mad at me right away? Do I want to make them mad at me at all? No. So warn them. Let them know. Say, hey, you're going to hate this. When they see it, yep, they hate it. Did I lie? No, I was up front with them. And I got their permission to give it to them. So offer number 1 is my all-cash $86,000. How did I come up with that? Just by using that formula. Close in 14 days. How did I come up with the closing? They wanted a quick close. I called my title. They said they could do it in about 14 days. So I always ask, because if I tell them I can close in a week and you can't, who's a liar? Are they going to say, but you said? Do they care if you have nothing to do with it being extended? No, so I always find out, how quick can I close? Offer number 2 is your middle of the road offer. Purchase price for this one is $135,000. Now I'm starting to put some money down. $30,000 down and so much per month. $535 per month until paid. I'm putting until paid, or if They want to know how many years that is. I put it in terms of payments. Do you see the psychology of that? 7 years, that's a long time. But if I said, 120 payments. Ooh, I'm going to get 120 payments? I like that idea. So think about the psychology of the words you use. Words matter. Offer number 3, purchase price, $165,000. I'm closer to where she wants to be. And some of you guys think, well, wait a minute, the property's not worth that. Hang on, I'll show you how it is. $687 per month until paid. Now notice, does interest come up in any of those? It's 100% principal. Can I pay a little bit more on a property when everything's going towards principal? Is your banker going to let you have 0 interest? We got pretty darn close with 2.5% for a while there. We may never see that again. This is why I like seller financing. Now, typically, you guys stop there. I must be sweating because this thing keeps moving on me. You guys are all laughing at me. You guys typically stop there. It's like, okay, pick A, B, or C. Here's the thing. They're looking at that generally and going, I don't like any of these. And you're like, okay, well, thank you, have a nice day, and leave. This is where your 4th offer needs to come in. This is your hybrid offer. I start saying, hey, Gloria, surely there's got to be something you like. Nope, I want any of this. I'm like, well, it sounds like cash is important to you. So again, using a multi-pen, I know I'm a nerd, I write cash in red across the top. And they're like, oh, yeah, but not that. I said, okay, I get it. So then price is also important. And then I circle 165,000. And I'm like, see, we're not that far apart yet. Now I can give you some cash, and I can give you your price, but in order for me to do that, I need more time. So now we start having a discussion. What do they need the money for? Many times it's just because, the bank wants you to have 20% down in order not to have mortgage insurance, right? So they think you got to have 20% down. Or many times they think that they have to have 50% down because that's security to them. Well, hell, 50% down, I'll take my bets with the bank. So I start having a discussion. What do you need the money for? So in talking with Gloria, instead of $30,000, I found out that she had $10,000 in medical bills. Connie did. Is that weighing on Connie's mind? Leaving her family with $10,000 in medical bills? Do you think that's keeping her up at night? Absolutely. Then I know that they're probably going to need about $5,000 closing costs, that kind of stuff. And then I go off topic and I say, hey, I noticed you have an RV out front. Tell me about that. Well, I found out that they used to take Gloria and her sisters and her mom used to go and take RV trips and stuff like that. And I said, well, what if we threw in another $5,000 so you can have one more last girls' trip with your mom? Would that be important to you? Well, sounds like you do that. So instead of $30,000, it became $20,000. Now, I can give her some cash, $20,000 down. I can give her a purchase price. But in order for me, instead of giving her $687 per month, and I know that Gloria's mom is only bringing home probably about $535 on that $825 rental because of taxes, insurance, maintenance, all that stuff. And I tell her, listen, I need to be able to take care of this property. And in order for me to run this like a business and take care of this property, instead of giving you $687 per month, would you have anything against $631.37 per month? Odd numbers seem real. Now all of a sudden it seems like I did all these calculations. And I did. I took some time there and I wrote a bunch of nonsense down and I came up with a number. Odd numbers seem more real. You should all be using that. Is anyone's mortgage end in all zeros? No. Does a tax man ever tax you in all zeros? Probably not. I wish. I wish it was just zero. Now, every property, you also need to have multiple exit strategies. So this property is near Penn State University. I could house hack it for $600 a room, also known as pad split. That's $1,800 a month now. I could do a rent to own or a lease option, easily at $1,500. It's actually $1,800 where I was. And now my only expenses are taxes and insurance. Write this down, about 40% as a rule of thumb of your gross rent, about 40% of that is expenses. The only difference that can happen is your taxes if you're in a higher property tax area or high insurance. But general rule of thumb, so if you're sitting across from the seller, if you want to figure it out real quick, usually 40% is about accurate. We'll go into what your cost factors are on Saturday. Now, I could do a vacation rental or a short-term rental for visiting professors, $2,200 a month for a midterm. As a Airbnb, Penn State weekends, oh my God, they bleed blue out there, about $6,000 a month. Not bad for this little tiny property. Who's Penn State? I think it's we are Penn State. You can tell I'm not really a Penn Stater. Anyhow, I'd be thrown out if they heard me say that. So as a lease option, let's do the numbers. $165,000 purchase price, 20 down, monthly payments, 19.14 years, rent of $1,800 a month, taxes, insurance, option fee, year one, profit, $17,000. I almost broke even on what I put down on that property. And let's not forget, your tenant is paying that mortgage every month, and it's 100% principal.
Maria?
Yeah.
What's the $5,000 option fee?
Your option fee is when you're going to get a tenant buyer who wants to become a homeowner. You're going to get an option fee from them that is non-refundable. Typically, I only do about 2% of the purchase price of the property so that they have the right to buy it at a set date in the future. They are not required, but you are required to sell it, right? Short-term rental, $13,255 profit year one. So just from one little house that you put $20,000 down on, how much would you have been shelled out every month if you had to get 6 or 8% interest or a hard money loan on that? It'd be much harder to make those numbers work. So you have to start building your scripts, and we'll do that on Saturday. But it's in your negotiations and sitting down and letting it simmer. Just having a conversation with the seller across from the kitchen table. This was Nancy after going to her all day. She was a teacher. She wanted to quit teaching. She had enough. She wanted to be there for her kids. One of her children had learning disability. Her husband was already flipping properties, and he said, okay, honey, you can quit as long as you take over acquisitions. She knew nothing about marketing, nothing about negotiating. And the reason why I showed a picture in the closet before, because that was where she used to talk to her sellers. It was from her bedroom closet because she felt comfortable because her husband wasn't listening to her. Is that important sometimes? Yeah, he was like the all-know. He's going to tell her exactly what she was doing wrong when she was talking to somebody. Do you need to be talking to one person and somebody like here? No. But right from there, by getting her marketing together and talking to the seller, she got 2 more properties. So next, you got to create the deal. Be able to create your deals out of thin air. How many of you have all the deals you want? No hands? Anna has all the deals. There's always room for just one more. You make more money by using less of your own. That was Rockefeller. So deals are made and not found. You have to get in the mindset of creating deal, finding people with problems, and then start looking at ways you can solve their problems. So let's talk about subject 2. How many of you have heard a lot about subject 2 deals? How many of you want to know how to do subject 2 legally, morally, ethically, the right way, not the YouTube way? There's a difference, isn't there? Absolutely. So this is a long, drawn-out definition of a subject 2. In a subject 2 deal, you're basically taking the deed to the property, using a title company, getting title to the property, the mortgage, the lien is staying in the seller's name, and every month you are paying it on behalf of that seller. So here's the Cliff Notes version. It's a form of seller financing. It's a type of installment sale. It's a type of seller financing. It's an informal assumption of mortgage. What happens with a formal assumption of mortgage? You're replacing the seller's name. An informal assumption of mortgage, the seller's name is remaining on the mortgage. I am not asking the bank for permission. I'm telling the bank what I am doing. You're agreeing to take over the seller's mortgage payments. Is it important to have reserves and be able to make their payment every month? Absolutely. What happens if you don't make a payment, other than the fact that you're scum? You messed up their credit, and that's why you're scum. Don't do a deal unless you can make the payments. I don't care what they say on YouTube. So the seller's remaining on the mortgage, you get title to the property, and it's not illegal. You will have attorneys out there and title companies that will tell you it's illegal. Tell them to get out of HUD 1 and look at line, I think it's 203 and 503. One's seller, one's buyer side, and it says subject to existing mortgage on there. Do you think a federal form would put something on there to trick you so you could take a nice little vacation and catch up on your reading in the federal pen? What were those lines again? I believe it's line 203 and 503 on a HUD 1. We're using a HUD 1, not a TRID, because we're an investor. So this is one of my other students, Ben. Ben got his marketing right. He was having issues with his negotiations. We got that ironed out. And then he started doing about, I'd say roughly around 8 deals a month, averaging about $22,000 per deal. The market shifted this last year, didn't it? Suddenly, and he's wholesaling some of those deals. Suddenly he's having problems, but he's running into all these subject to deals. So I offer Lifeline, which are like coaching calls with my courses. He hops on one of those, and he's wanting to know, what is a subject to deal? How do we do that? Well, every month I do trainings. So we do trainings on how to do these, how to structure your deals. And in the courses, I have comment sections where we work out, or Q&A sections where I work out your problems. From just that one little thing, he now has shifted and starts doing subject to deals. That's also how he started buying his short-term rentals. And you can look him up on Instagram. His name is Ben Allegyer, A-L-L-E-G-Y-E-R. So here's a subject to deal. Again, tired landlord. Did I deviate from my avatar? No. He has, in this case, I'm going after sellers with mortgages. His mortgage is 7 or more years old. Same thing there. His mortgage is also slightly upside down. Do we have properties right now where they owe more than what they're worth? Yeah, do some of them have pretty good interest rates on them? Yeah, will they cash flow? Absolutely, those are the ones I want. So again, simple thing, present situation, future situation. He had tenants that were churning him up, spitting him out. One night, I followed up with him for 9 months. One night his tenant calls him up late at night, 8 o'clock, asks him to come over. Hey, Joe, the hallway light bulb burnt out. Can you come and replace it? Joe had enough. He was an accidental landlord. He hated it. He was underwater, $20,000. Realtor, I told him, go list it. Here's the other thing I tell my sellers. I should not be your first choice. I should be your last choice. Did I make myself more desirable by telling them that? Yeah. Did I qualify myself by disqualifying it? Absolutely. But here's the thing. Usually, they might get more money if they go on the MLS. But he might have to come in with money. He doesn't have it. He just wants his problem to go away. Do sellers just want their problems to go away? Yeah. All the time. That's what we're there for, to see if we can help them. So in this case, I'll just skip to the next slide. I closed on his house for only $1,300 in closing costs. I took it over subject to, was about $20,000 upside down. Now, as a straight rental, it was, year one made about $4,000. Is that pretty good for a property I paid $1,300 for? Yeah, this one's near Arizona State University. I do student housing. I can rent it for $600 a room. End of year one, $11,000 in profit. Is that pretty good? Not bad for a little $1,300 property. You have to be looking for people who have problems. Every one of these properties, I had to keep following up. Your money is in your follow-up. So if you only got one house per month, at the end of 1 year, that could be $134,000 in revenue if you were to do student housing, just from $1,800 a month, one Joe property. For a lot of you guys, now all of a sudden you're like, man, I could be retired on 12 properties. Now say you want to create a job and you wanted to wholesale them. Wholesaling them on a wrap, $20,000 each. How do I know that? Because that's what I got offered for his property. It was $20,000 for a property that was upside down but cash flowing. One of those a month and you now have $240,000 at the end of year one. This isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. But small checks lead to bigger and bigger checks, and that's how you start to create wealth, how you start to create revenue. That's how you start to build your systems, and that's why we're here. Excuse me. So one of the questions I get a lot is probate. A lot of people think you can't do this with probate, and there's a lot of probate where I am right now. Life and death, I mean, it happens to us all. This is one of my students, and I shared this with you guys the last time I was here, Sherry, because I think her story is very powerful. She was a daycare worker, only making about $24,000 a year back then. She started with her 3. She didn't have a laptop at home, didn't have a fancy computer, went to the library, pulled her list, friends' houses, did her mailers, went into the system, printed out the call script so she knew what to say when they called. Is that important? Absolutely. Started with the quick start. Her very first mailing, she gets her very first call. She goes, schedules her first appointment. And then, because we do, like, you can give me tape. I know. But then, because she, thank you, I've been taped. But then because she has my system, and I offer these lifeline calls, she calls me up on a lifeline call. On that lifeline call, because she had the call script there, I was able to find out everything I needed to know to help her structure a deal with that seller. It was a woman whose significant other of 7 years had died, and she couldn't pay the mortgage. It was 3 mortgage payments behind. Is that important to know? Yeah. So she could walk the house, knew how much the mortgage was, how much was owed, everything. And from that, she was able to structure a subject to deal that netted her $54,000 on her very first call. More than doubled her annual salary as a daycare worker. And most importantly, she got her self-esteem back. Now, you have to know your steps. Are your steps important? Absolutely. This is my son. He was in the Marine. This was the day he graduated from the School of Infantry. When you're launching mortars, do you need to have a checklist? I hope so. My husband was a former C-130 navigator. He dropped Delta guys, was in the first Gulf War. Do they have checklists they follow? Absolutely. I was a trauma nurse. Whoops, I don't know what happened there. Hang on. Hit the wrong button. I was a trauma nurse, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. We saw it on the football field last year. It's basically an algorithm or a checklist. You miss one step, someone dies. Your airline pilots, crews, they're all following a checklist. Why? Systems. If the one thing is missed, death to the passenger, death to the crew, death to people on the ground. So why aren't you all using checklists? Everything I have, I use checklists for. From going out on a seller appointment to coming here, I have a whole tech checklist to make sure. Why? Because I've forgotten my computer cord before. It's really hard to do a presentation when you don't have a battery. So when you come on Saturday, I am giving you, actually, you'll get the card tonight when you sign up, and it's $69, 9 a.m., $69, 9 a.m., breakfast and lunch, right? To go away with your real estate investor action blueprint. You'll each get one of these when you come. For signing up tonight, you're going to get my subject to checklist. So you have everything you need and you don't miss a step, because you don't want to be at a closing table and find out, oh, whoops, they weren't behind 3 payments, they were behind 7 payments because you forgot to get a copy of the mortgage statements, because it's on the checklist. So you must be here on Saturday. You're also going to get, it's almost a 2-hour training video on subject twos where I walk you through how to do the subject twos, because I want you to be able to do that the right way and not miss a step. Because here's the thing. When you don't do things the right way, when you don't have all the right disclosures, when you don't talk to the seller about it, can people get sued? Absolutely. Can it end careers? Absolutely. Can you get in over your head? Absolutely. I don't want that happening. And most importantly, I do not want to see subject twos on the chopping block. Meaning, I don't want, when there's all these people out there doing them the wrong way, I don't want to sit in front of Congress and Congress say, nope, we're going to take that off there, because these are tools. Did Dodd-Frank have anything to do with us? No. Did it have to do with the banks and all those other crooks? Yeah. But who ended up paying for it? Us. We can't help the sellers. So I want to make sure you guys do them the right way. So this is Sherry. Excuse me. So funding does not have to be an issue. $1,300. How many of you guys could find $1,300? Yeah, for a property like that. I think all of you should be like, yeah, I can find it. Thank you. So on Saturday, you're going to get the subject to checklist and videos. I think you guys have this form, which tells you about Saturday and how you can sign up for it back there. So you can know how to morally, ethically do these deals, so you'll profit from the lower interest rate. Why does everybody want to do subject to deals right now? The low interest rates. Do we want to be paying 7 or 10%, or do we want to get the 3%? But they've got to be able to cash flow. So you're going to get that postcard back there when you sign up. On there, there's a QR code that takes you right there. I don't request any of your information, any of that. It's just a lot easier than DVDs and CDs that nobody looks at. So you can download it and have it on your phone or your computer. So you'll get to profit from other people's mortgages, and you'll get the checklist. Now on Saturday, we're going to go through the Real Estate Action Guide Blueprint. This is your 23-page manual, all right? Right here, you get my marketing piece in here, and we go over why to do it. I give you the 10 components to your marketing, how you can personalize it, over 50 marketing strategies, and the 10 essential components to your marketing that you must have or you'll lose money in your marketing. Is that important to know what those 10 are? Absolutely. Do you want to just sit there and waste money? No. Or do you want to have your customized blueprint? Absolutely. So you know what you're doing. Then we're going to go into the negotiations. You're going to get your 6 essential elements to using your negotiations framework. I guarantee nobody else teaches real estate negotiations like I do. This is the stuff I told you. I was in Chris Voss's thing. It had nothing to do with real estate. I had to reinvent it so that it works for real estate. How when you discover the black swan in every negotiations, it changes everything and it makes you into a more fearless negotiator. Then we're going to do your deal stacking. This is huge. How I stacked a subject to deal with a short sale. I'm doing another short sale with a student right now. How you can do your negotiations and go through your 3 offers, your seller finance offers, your wraparound mortgages, and your subject twos. Those will all be on there. So you can build your toolbox so you can structure more deals. Is it important to have more tools in your toolbox? Absolutely. Can you build a house with just a hammer and a saw? I hope not. I hate to see what it looks like, right? So you've got to have it, and you have it all in your manual right here. And it takes you step by step. Is that important to have? Does anybody else give you your business to leave with that you're building for you? You're going to get my Ironclad Deal Maker formula in here, and you're going to be knowing how to write offers that get you paid, right? That's why we're here. We want to get paid. You want to make money, right? Anybody not want to make money? I didn't think so. So you got to know how to do it. So today we talked about how to find more deals in today's market. And it still doesn't like me. That stacking your list. Who's going to start stacking their lists? Looking for the problems. Yeah, all you guys. It made Michelle $36,000 in 1 month. Then, how to negotiate, how you can walk the seller. Can you walk the seller through those 3 offers now? Do you need a little more practice to do that? Yeah, will you feel better after you have that practice on Saturday? I got a whole day with you on Saturday to go step by step. Will that make a difference? Yeah. How Ben went from doing 0 deals per month to averaging 8 deals per month just by tweaking his negotiations. Your negotiations is important. And then how to have a creative strategy for every deal. How to structure your offers, explain it to your seller, and walk them through it. How you can do a subject to deal even on a probate. Each one of these properties, I bought, rehab, renovated, rented, did a new build, a spec build, a commercial build, using these type of strategies. Just in my negotiations, I have a seller that wanted to sell a fraternity. I'm now syndicating a sorority from it. So there's so many different ways in real estate to do it. I have a wholesaler who brought me a $1.2 million commercial deal. He couldn't make the numbers work. The seller is willing to take seller financing, but he wants 1.2. We worked the numbers backwards. I'm buying it for $835,000 with $35,000 down at a little over 3% interest. So over the course of that loan, he's getting his $1.2 million. Does that work for him? Yeah. I also just saved him over $500,000 in capital gains. Do you think that's important? Yeah. The wholesaler never would have known how to do that. So why are you here? Think about it. Is it inflation? You have more month than money? That's a lot of people. That was me when I got started. I had way more month than money. Is it your job as someone else's passive income? How many of you are tired of being someone else's retirement plan? Yeah. Yeah, like, yeah. That was me. Do you feel trapped? Worried you don't have enough to retire? Over 92% of Americans are afraid that they're going to run out of money before they run out of life. Are you concerned about the cost of college? You're running out of time? You want more life in your life, not more work in your life? No one ever was on their deathbed and said, damn, if only I had worked a few more hours. Are you afraid you'll make a costly mistake? How many of that's what's keeping you back from making offers? No one is afraid of making a costly mistake. All right, 2 of you are. You got to learn. But is it easier to learn as a group and in a safe area? How many are afraid of making an offer because you're afraid they're going to say yes? Yeah, now all of you, I got you guys now. Now you're afraid, oh my God. Because what happens if they say yes? You got to follow through. You got to do something. How many of you haven't returned a phone call because you're afraid they're going to say yes to an offer? couple of you are just kind of smirking. Yeah. Some of you guys don't want to call the seller back or leave without making an offer because you're afraid of what if that seller says yes to you? Or what if you don't know enough to do the deal and get it done? So it's that missing piece. That's why we're here. So my job is to get you out of seminar land and get you out there and doing more deals in 2024, to get your vision to reality. So for those of you who can't be here on Saturday, and I know some of you can't, you really should like get a babysitter, cancel your plans, whatever, but I do have a 3-course package. Now I'll talk more about this on Saturday, but if you can't be here on Saturday, it's a 3-course package that normally sells for $5,588. It consists of your marketing, your negotiations, your creative deal structuring, which is your subject twos, your wraps, and your seller financing, and then your bonuses, which is your fix and flip wealth builder, which is your flipping course, your lease option elite training, which is your landlord, and your lifeline calls with me, which is direct coaching calls with me. Plus, we do monthly mastermind coaching calls, group coaching calls. Our next one is actually tomorrow night. So the 3 courses, and as I said, it's your marketing, your negotiations, your creative deal structuring. It has all of your forms in there. It has all of your marketing pieces in there, all of your postcards. So you don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel. You can use what I've tested and is working right now. You also will get my negotiation framework, which includes my 6-step prep sheet. How many of you would like to have something to go in to prep for talking to that seller? How many of you would like to get permission from that seller to read off of a script? Can you say to that seller, hey, I hope you don't mind, but I typed up a few questions so I wouldn't forget to ask you anything. Did I now just get the seller's permission to ask him right off of my script? Can you all do that? Does it make you feel better when you have the questions there so you don't have to memorize? I'm not about memorizing. I had a learning disability as a kid. And then in the creative deal structuring course, you get your purchase and sales agreements for seller financing, for subject twos, for wraparound mortgages. Is it important to have the right paperwork for the right deal? What's more cost effective? To take my paperwork, go to your attorney and say, hey, can you just look this over and make sure I'm compliant in the state of Ohio and what I'm doing? Or to say, hey, Mr. Attorney, could you please write me up something like this? What's going to take more time and cost you more? Choice number 2, exactly. There is no one's paperwork that's going to be 100% compliant in all 50 states and all cities and towns. But it is a heck of a lot easier to take someone else's and say, here you go. You also get my private money stuff in there as well. You get all the disclosures you need. Is it important to have disclosures for your sellers when you're doing these deals? What happens when we don't have disclosures? You get sued. What happens if you don't disclose to that seller you're doing a subject to with, and he wants to go out and get another loan and gets turned down, and you didn't disclose to him that he may not be able to get another loan? Will that come back on you? Yeah. So when is the time to have the disclosures? At the closing table, when they're signed and notarized. So you get all of that in there. So if you can't be here on Saturday, as we get, and it's an e-course. Now tonight I have 6 hard copies as well, but my course is 100% online. Why? Because I'm always adding to it. If you have the thumb drive that's in here, can I add to it? No. If it's online and I'm adding some new landlord stuff to it for going after tired landlords for marketing, you get instant access to it. Those tactical drill downs, all the recordings we do every month, they're on there. So you can access it on a laptop, a desktop, your tablet, your phone, anything. And the next one, every section has a question and answer, because I knew what it was like to go and get someone's course and get into it and then have questions and not be able to have them answered. And that frustrated the crap out of me, and it took me 2 years to figure things out and prevented me from getting to where I wanted to be. So I don't want to leave anybody behind. So we have Q&A in the course, we have lifeline calls, and we have our monthly tactical drill downs. And then, of course, the bonuses. This is director of CT He said this is the first program he's ever seen that has everything in it you need. Why do I package it all in it? Because if you don't do your marketing, you're never going to get to your negotiations. If you don't know how to negotiate, you're never going to get to create the deal. It's all intertwined. That's why you need, after doing over 267 deals, I've realized that you have to have all the pieces. When you miss a piece, it could be that one thing that prevents you from doing the deal. So the bonuses are the 3 lifeline calls with me, excuse me, a $1,500 value, fix and flip wealth builder, excuse me, that has my agreements for talking with contractors. I'm a contractor. You think I know how to write a contractor agreement to protect you guys? You think I know the little tricks they play? Sorry if there's other contractors in here, but you know what I mean. I do double lien releases, change orders, all of that's in there. Then you have your housing provider course, your lease option elite training. It has my 14-page lease agreement in there. In 15 years, I've had 3 evictions. I think I know a thing about being a landlord or a housing provider. And then, of course, we have our monthly tactical drill downs, which are our group coaching sessions. These are just a few of the different things we talk about: negotiations, deal structuring, landlording, remote investing, seller financing. These are mini masterminds, and we do at least one a month. As I said, tomorrow night, Wednesday night, is our next one. And actually, that's on getting everybody to do their marketing and setting it up for 2024. So that's another $997 value. This is Stacy Ann Rossetti. She said, no one else out there can subject to a first and short the second, and nobody teaches what I do. So all of this, instead of it being $5,588, it's just one price of $1,297. One time, you never pay again. There's no renewals. There's no you get kicked out after a year. All the forms, as I'll show you on Saturday, are fillable. How many of you guys like fillable forms that you can edit versus typing them out? Part of the reason why I do my course online is because I access my own forms when I'm out on the road. It's much easier that way. And then I can have someone e-sign it and kick it over to title. So you get all of that plus the bonuses. And as I said, it's just a one-time $1,297. Now I have 6 of these hard courses here because some of you guys want to have, oops, there's really 7, but this one I've opened. The hard courses with the thumb drives with access to everything. So that's here as well for the first 6, I think. So instead of being $5,588, it's just $1,297. But here's the thing. Sign up for Saturday. Was this a value to you? Did you get a lot out of it? Yeah. Is it going to help you on Saturday to be here for a whole day and get your Wealth Builder Blueprint, your 23-page, done for you, wherever I put it up here, book, and everybody will get their own. Anna? Ooh. So for $69, you get your business blueprint, you get breakfast and lunch, and you get to go out there and make money. This is awesome. So we're signing up back there? Okay. I'll take questions back there if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for having me here. And I really look forward to having everybody on Saturday. Thank you.